Introverts can enjoy travel too. I'm Chris, this is Yellow Productions. I do travel guides that are fun, informative, and entertaining. And in this live stream, I'll be giving you 13 trips to help introverts make the most out of their trips and be comfortable when they travel. I have a secret, and you probably won't believe it based on what you perceive of me on YouTube, but I am one of the biggest introverts you'll ever meet. I know it, you won't believe it. And when I share this with people, I am often told that I hide it very well. And I think that's because I can be extremely outgoing in bursts, but I need time to recharge and away from people, right? That's kind of the definition of introvert versus extrovert. Extroverts gain energy when they're outside with people, whereas introverts need some time to recharge and gain their energy by themselves. And so I don't think you have to hide being an introvert. If you are one, embrace it and follow these tips to get more enjoyment out of your introvert travels. And so the first tip is to travel solo. It is absolutely okay to travel solo. Some people just can't conceive that this is possible. Why would anybody want to travel solo? Or why would anybody want to do it? It's just strange. Or if you travel solo, that somehow you are weird. And I will say, don't listen to them. Lots of people do it, and there's nothing strange about it. Obviously, in many of my travels, you see I travel with my panda buddy Topher, or I'm often traveling with my wife, OC Girl, but I've been on many trips where I've been by myself and OC Girl as well, and we can enjoy those trips also. A lot of my videos, you can tell really if I'm recording myself or someone's recording me based upon about how close the camera is, because if I've been doing it, you know, I'm holding it just like this. So a couple of comments and responses in the live stream on YouTube. UAL Kingpin says introvert equals loner, and I don't think that's necessarily the case. Again, these terms sometimes have like negative connotations to them, and just because someone likes to be alone or by themselves sometimes doesn't necessarily make them a loner. UAL Kingpin said he likes to travel solo. Chinmay Joshi says, I love traveling solo, but that's because all my friends are married and boring. Just because you're married doesn't mean you're boring, right? I don't think so. All right. So, and you know, some great things about traveling solo is that it's easier to get into restaurants, right? Like you can go sit down at a restaurant and because you're by yourself, well, table for one, or you can sit at a counter, or you can eat at odd hours. We'll talk about that a little more when we get to restaurants. All right, number two. Let's see, did number two work? No, number two. Number two. Click number two. All right, I am trying this new live streaming setup, and those of you on YouTube should see some numbers that are up here in the corner instead of the cards really gotten fancy. All right, so the second travel tip for introverts is to avoid group tours. And yes, if you're an introvert, then you don't like masses of people and being around masses of people all the time. So I suggest to try audio guides instead, like Detour or Rick Steves' Europe Walks. If you've never tried the Detour app, it's a really neat app, and all of the detours are free. And of course, once I want to bring it up, then I can't find it. But like, it's an app that gives you audio guides and walks on certain areas. So you can walk on like San Francisco, or you can walk on downtown LA. And it's pretty neat because these are like Los Angeles ones, and it'll give you a map of the destination. And basically when you reach a certain point, it will play and tell you about it. Wow, when I put that phone up there, it really whacked out the colors on that camera, didn't it? Rick Steves does some really good walks in Europe. We're like walking in, say, Vienna. We followed one of his guides walking in Vienna, and that was pretty neat. Oh, hopefully my live stream corrects from its yellow colors back to white again, or I'll learn not to hold up that phone. All right, the third tip, is Sometimes you might want some group activity, and so in this case, book maybe a couple-hour walking tour. I like to do these myself. Book a couple-hour walking tour. Yes, I am looking orangish, I know, and I'm not sure how to fix myself looking orangish. It did that when I held up the phone and it adjusted to those white colors, and now I'm orange. That's the problem with like a white balance. Let me try flipping this switch. Does that look better? Do I look less orange now? As many of you have found out, I'm doing a new live stream setup, and so I'm still kind of working out some of the details from this new live stream setup. All right, but in number 3, sometimes you want some group activity. So walking tours are great because you can sign up for walking tours in cities. You can be with a group for a little bit, but then you can go away from that group. Or you can do active tours like a cycling tour, like bicycle riding. You can't talk that much there. Or an evening pub crawl. Those are bounded in time, hit a few pubs, talk to a few people for a little bit, and then you're done with the pubs. All right, so let's check to some of the comments, and people say the colors look better, so that is excellent. Remy D says he traveled solo to the Bahamas at the Atlantis Resort. Was very interesting, so there's another plus for traveling solo. And on Facebook, we've got Melanie joined in, Detour joined in. Deanna says she's going to Vegas in 2 weeks and her anxiety is starting to set in. I had a question earlier on Facebook as I posted this live stream. Somebody asked me, Chris, are big cities good for... Are big cities good for introverts, or should you go to smaller destinations? Is Vegas a good introvert destination? And I think Vegas can actually be a fine introvert destination because I think it is absolutely possible to be alone in a group of people, right? Like what often makes introverts uncomfortable is talking to strangers, talking to new people. But like in Vegas, there's a lot of people on the Strip and there's a lot of people in the casinos, but you can easily be pretty well alone standing there in the Strip with 1,000 people watching the Mirage volcano, right? You don't have to do what everybody else does and go to the nightclubs or go to the blackjack tables or go to the bar where you might feel you might have to talk to people there. So I think Deanna, for going to Vegas, it's totally okay. Melanie says that she doesn't like the masses of people, which makes Disneyland challenging. And I guess in that case, you have to find the times when it's just less busy, right? And even places like Disneyland have less busy days. And so in that case, you know, it's like find times to go early or find times to go late, right? If you get to an attraction early, then usually there's nobody there. And absolutely, if I'm doing like solo travel to a theme park, like I did Disney World by myself, then it was get up and I would get there at park opening time, right as the park opened, and nobody's there. And by 12 o'clock as the park is busy, well then it's time to check out and get out of Dodge. Michelle, she's on Facebook and she says she is heading solo to Paris on Thursday. Well, excellent, Michelle. I hope you enjoy Paris on Thursday. Eric Chu asks how Topher is doing today. Eric, thank you for asking. Topher is doing just fine. He's resting up from his Seoul trip, and so he's pretty tired and resting up for our Thailand trip, which we have coming up later in November. All right, so I know this was 13, but for some reason, number 4 got lost. So moving on to number 5. Now, if you are traveling and you're stuck with a group as an introvert, make sure you have some downtime scheduled in. Every introvert at some time will end up on travel with a group of people, whether it's a trip with friends, a trip with family, a trip through work. I guarantee you, you'll be on a trip with people. And so it's important, again, to make sure you have some downtime for yourself and just be upfront with them, right? Be upfront with your friends, be upfront with your family, be upfront with your coworkers, and just say, hey, I need a little bit of me time. I need a little bit of me time. Need to go to sleep. Maybe I'll have to pass on dinner, or I'll have to pass on after dinner drinks, or I'll have to pass on after dinner drinks club, and it's cool. And they go hang out, and you can say, hey, it's cool. They'll be like, how about breakfast tomorrow? And you'll be like, how about after breakfast tomorrow? Just whatever we're gonna do, I'll just meet you in the lobby, and I've just got some time for myself to like go for a walk by myself. Brandon asked, is Topher coming to the next stream? we can probably see if Topher can make it on the next stream. He should be rested up by then. Shaw A says, good stuff. Philip joined in from Yukon, Canada. Welcome, Philip, from Yukon, Canada. And Remy D says, it doesn't really count, but ever since Movie Pass came out, I've been going to the movies by myself. Yeah, it's totally cool to go to the movies by yourself. OC Girl and I, we just saw First Man yesterday, that new movie starring... Oh, what the heck is his name? I can't remember his name. But it's by Steven Spielberg and the director from La La Land as they do the Apollo landing on the moon mission. We did that together. Some movies we like together, but we see some movies apart because we don't always like the same movies. And it's totally cool. But that's another one where people might go like, oh my gosh, what do you mean you saw a movie by yourself? All right, let's go on to tip number... What? Tip number 7. All right, tip number 7 is that noise-canceling headphones are your friends. I have many different pairs of noise-canceling headphones. I love the Boses, the on-ear ones, the over-ear ones, the in-ear ones. I have them all for different trips, and that is a great way if you want to be on an airplane or you want to be on a train. It's a pretty good way just to be like, look, don't bug me because I'm kind of listening to something. And I mean, I'll say, I don't think you have to be rude about it, right? You don't, like, if somebody does talk to you or the stewardess comes and talks to you, like, take off the headphones and talk to the stewardess. But, you know, when you get on the plane and there's, like, chatty Kathy sitting next to you, and it doesn't always have to be a Kathy, it can be a chatty Chad, too. But when chatty person sits next to you, it's totally fine just to say, like, hey, great talking to you, but I really wanted to watch this movie, or I really wanted to work on this, and I think they'll understand, right? You can absolutely do that, not in a rude way. I mean, it's probably kind of rude if they are talking to you in, like, mid-sentence, you just put them on and start to look down, but I think you can do that. And in addition to, you know, like kind of saying, hey, I'm doing my thing, it also makes like the audio sound way better. Ever since I got noise canceling headphones, my movie watching experience on planes is like up 27 times. Thanks for the hearts on Facebook. Joshua Pickles just joined in. Thanks for joining, Mr. Pickles. Jess Contreras gave a heart, and Melanie says, I put my yellow sticker that you sent me on my water bottle at work. Someone came in and said, hey, you watch Chris. It was great. Melanie, that is super cool. I love it. Super small world. That's awesome to hear. Thanks for putting that sticker on the water bottle at your work, too. Melanie won one of the items from a previous contest. Melanie, I think you won the socks, right, that we did in that live stream with the sticker in there. OC Girl says, next time we should do a travel tips for extroverts that travel with... This is a tongue twister. Travel tips for extroverts that travel with introverts. A lot of extroverts have trouble understanding why introverts don't like happy hour. That is a great tip. And I will tell you, if you're an extrovert watching, introverts don't like happy hour. That's probably a whole different live stream of its own, but I generally would rather go watch paint dry than go to happy hour. I mean, 2 reasons. 1, I just don't like the forced mingling, and also I'm kind of a teetotaler to drink. Which now becomes, what am I drinking today? Today I am drinking some Ito and Golden Oolong tea, which is interesting because generally this is something that's sold in Japan, but this is actually a product of Taiwan. So, all right, Taiwan, often a place where good tea comes from. Shaft says, do more Las Vegas videos, please. Shaft, next time I head to Vegas, I will. I have a video review queued up of the Hughes Center Residence Inn I stayed at and the Aria Buffet. I need to edit that one. Grovel says, Chris is my spirit animal. Grovel, thank you very much. And Jeff Pike says, Topher is his spirit animal. And Grovel asks if I'm a Marvel or DC guy. By the way, because a lot of people probably say I do Comic-Con videos. I don't know, probably Marvel, but I like both, right? I like Batman, I like Superman. Matt Tat says, what about Hawaii? Hawaii seems like a place that is romantic in nature with lots of married couples. Have you been there on a solo trip? What would you suggest for a solo trip to Hawaii? I've been to Hawaii quite a few times on solo trips, and I think if you are going solo to Hawaii, like Oahu is a good island to go to if you're going solo. There's lots of hiking, there's lots of snorkeling and things like that, and it's totally fine. I mean, OC Girl and I, we love it when we go together, but we can go separately and find things to do. When I'm like with OC Girl, we generally might spend more time like lounging around on the beach together or lounging by the pool. When I'm by myself, I'm not usually lying by myself on the beach, but maybe I'm going for a swim or I'm going for a walk or I'm going for something that, OC Girl might get tired, and so I can do that and go longer because I know I only have myself to complain about it later. Cyborg Man asks, where should I go next, Tokyo or New York City alone? Cyborg Man, I would say Tokyo, just because I love Tokyo and I think it's a great destination. Deanna asks if I've done a video on Disney World. Deanna, that was like before I really was doing videos, and so I have no videos on Disney World, sorry. I do have a video on Disneyland, Universal Studios Hollywood, and Tokyo Disney, but not Disney World. If I go back again to Florida, I will totally do another video. Ryan asks, can you please do a video on how to take trains in San Diego? Ryan, do you mean like ride the trolley, like the light rail, or do you mean take the Amtrak as a train? I was actually toying around a couple weekends ago about doing a video about how to ride trains in Los Angeles. There's the Amtrak and the Metrolink. I have one about the subway, so let me know what you think. Destiny joined in. Destiny's a new subscriber, going to Universal Studios next week. The Universal Studios video you made was very informative. Thank you, Destiny. I appreciate it. Brandon says Cowabunga for Hawaii. Remy D says, oh, Florida or Hollywood, obviously about Universal Studios, and my video is on Universal Studios Hollywood because it's the best Universal Studios because it's the only one that has the studio tour, which takes you behind the scenes in a lot of their movie sets, which I think is the reason to go to Universal Studios. Jeff says, I want to take a solo trip to Los Angeles and area. What is the best area to stay in? I was thinking Pasadena. Jeff, Pasadena is a good area to stay in if you're renting a car. If you're not renting a car, I would suggest staying in downtown Los Angeles. There's like the LA Live complex that has a JW Marriott in it, which is some pretty nice hotels, and you're close to the subway, so you can take around. Another place I would suggest is Santa Monica, which is more on the beach side of Los Angeles. All right, let's go to travel tip number... Wow, I really need to get these shortcuts better, so I'm not going through all these different numbers. All right, let's go to travel tip number 8. Travel tip number 8 for introverts is if you are going to restaurants, well, it's totally okay to bring a book. I thought I had a book, but I don't have a book. It's totally okay to bring a book, maybe your travel guide to read with you. If you're going to Tokyo and you have a travel guide on Tokyo, bring that with you to the restaurant. That way you won't be sitting in the restaurant and feel lonely while you're staring out at the waiter and the waitress, wondering when your food's gonna get there. Or, bring your phone, right? That's a great time to go through all the pictures that you took, sort them out, delete the ones that are bad. I mean, I always end up taking pictures of like myself looking away, or you taking all your selfies. You can go to a restaurant that is for people, like a sit-down restaurant by yourself. It is okay. But if I do that, I often like to get there early. So if the restaurant opens up at 5, that might be when I get there. Because if you're worried about the restaurant saying like, oh, you're taking up a whole table, chances are most restaurants open, I don't really care if you're taking up a whole table. And the service will be quicker, generally, right? You won't have to wait very long. If the restaurant has a counter, sit at the counter, right? It's often seats for one. When I go to Waikiki, I love this Japanese restaurant that's there that has this great tonkatsu or katsudon, which is like a pork cutlet that's been deep fried. If you're going to Waikiki, definitely check out my video on the best cheap eats in Waikiki. I've got that in there, but they've got a counter and I can always get in with 0 wait. Whereas if I'm with more people, we'd be sitting at a table and we'd have to wait. So it's nice being solo to sit at counter seats, or go fast casual, right? If you're solo, you don't only have to be eating at McDonald's and Burger King and those sorts of things, but you can go to places that are a little fancier but still take some time to make your order, give you a number, those sorts of things. But a lot of people look at my cheap eats video in Las Vegas and say, Chris, why is it that all these places are fast food? Why don't you do some more sit-down things? And I'll say, well, when I go to Vegas, I seem to often end up traveling there solo, and so when I do that, I don't want to go places that I have to sit forever, and so I go to these fast casual places because there's still good food, and I get in and out in 30 minutes. Jess Contreras says that she brings a crossword puzzle. That's a good tip. Clean Extreme says the tablet is my favorite. Though Remy D comments and says, the best part about the book is you don't have to charge it. That is a good tip. And Chinmay says about Las Vegas, I'm going to Bruxy. Got a tip from you, thank you. Excellent, enjoy Bruxy, Chinmay. I hope you enjoy it. And Clean Extreme says, even fancy places will serve you dinner at the bar. Yeah, that's a great tip. One of the restaurants I like quite a bit, and I don't have any videos on it, but I often post pictures about it. Well, I have videos from the location in Taiwan, but it's Din Tai Fung. Din Tai Fung, it's a Taiwanese restaurant that specializes in soup dumplings, xiaolongbao, and they often have waits of like an hour or 2 hours because it's crazy busy. But there's usually a bar that has like 8 seats, and you can just kind of go hang out at the bar and grab one of those seats and not have to wait. Mr. Pickles asks, is there a best cheap eats in San Diego? Mr. Pickles, I should do that. I have not yet, but that's definitely one I will start working on. One of my favorite places in San Diego is... Right, Mr. Pickles, Din Tai Fung is at UTC now, and I will be heading there soon for dinner. I am excited, and I'm going to take my GoPro and make like a little short video inside. I'm excited for that too, because I always go to the Costa Mesa one. But in San Diego, one of my favorites is Los Cuatro Milpas. Los Cuatro Milpas is a Mexican restaurant down in Barrio Logan, which if you're not familiar with San Diego, it's under the Coronado Bridge. Anyway, this Mexican restaurant kind of feels like you're going into a Mexican family's home. I mean, it's this place that has like the picture of the original owners and about like one light bulb and a bunch of like big pots on a stove that have like a big pot of beans and a big pot of rice, and they've got this big vat of lard, and so when you order a taco, they take the taco shell and they just throw it in this vat of lard that you can see like bubbling up there. They ladle the beans and the rice in these bowls, put it on a tray, and you go down. Super delicious. Though a lot of people, when I take them there for the first time, kind of wonder if I'm sane, because like the windows are cracked, the lights are dim, but then people eat the food and they're like, oh my gosh. You can find this place if you come to San Diego, because there will always be a line out the door, pretty much. Ritz agrees about eating at the bar is fun. You meet all kinds of interesting people, which is interesting, Ritz. I'm curious, Ritz, do you consider yourself an extrovert or an introvert? Because I would say as an introvert, that's not why I sit at the bar. I don't sit at the bar to meet interesting people. I generally sit at the bar so I can get in and out quickly. And hopefully just eat my food. Mr. Pickle says Ichiban, which is Japanese up in the Kearny Mesa area, if I am not mistaken. What do you like at Ichiban, Mr. Pickles? Zachary Smith says, I lived in Taiwan for 4 years, and the Din Tai Fung in Taichung is the best. Okay, why is the one in Taichung the best? I like the original location in Taipei, which is just pretty neat, because it's the first one. Destiny says, where did you get your burger and fries pillows from? They are on this side over here. These burger and fry pillows I picked up from Comic-Con. San Diego Comic-Con I go to every year. Let's see, the other pillows. The yellow pillow I had custom made. The subscribe pillow is from Throwboy. That hamburger pillow, ooh, that might be from Japan or something like that. These are from Throwboy. And then the yellow Ys that you see back there, I picked those up at like an antique swap meet or something like that. This guy had these like antique letters, and when I saw yellow W's, I knew I had to get them. Metata asks if I've ever tried Pizzeria Luigi in San Diego. I think I have. It's been a while. I really like pizza, and so I explore most new pizza places. If you're coming to San Diego, my favorite pizza place is Bronx Pizza in Hillcrest. I think they have some of the best New York pizza because they hire people like from New York to come and work there. I mean, it's a pretty impressive place. And Nick Boyer asked about that Mexican restaurant. It's called Los Cuatro Milpas. M-I-L-P-A-S. Los Cuatro Milpas. Chinmay says that they are very extroverted. They sit at the bar all the time and strike conversations. Yes, I bet you would, as very much extroverted. Brandon says he loves eating traditional Mexican food. Remy asked, have you guys been to Flushing, New York for Chinese food? I have not. OC Girl was recently in Flushing, and I think she did say there was a lot of Chinese food out there and Korean food as well. Chris Jag says, would you recommend going to Thailand, Shanghai, or Hong Kong? Already did Japan. As much as I want to go back, I feel like I should try to go somewhere else. Thailand, I'll be able to tell you in a month when we go there, because I've never been. I've never been to Shanghai. I've been to Beijing. Hong Kong, I think, is pretty awesome. So I would probably put Hong Kong there. But also, I love dim sum, and so Hong Kong is a great place to get super amazing dim sum. Kavita says, what are the favorite shows in Vegas for more boring introverted people? Kavita, one of my favorite shows in Vegas is the Blue Man Group. And that's like, when you're asking shows, I assume you mean one that like you pay for and sit down in. I think Blue Man Group is pretty fun. They're those guys that dress in blue and beat on these drums that are kind of like, I mean, they're drums that are musical, but they're like, they have like blue gook in them. It's hard to describe the show, but I think that's a good one. I like it a lot better than the Cirque du Soleil shows that a lot of times I'm just kind of left wondering like, I'm not sure what happened. I think there's supposed to be a story, but I'm just not really sure. Darit says, I am both an introvert and an extrovert, although I love eating at the bar since I do lots of solo travel. I've had some interesting unplanned conversations about all kinds of topics at the bar. Interesting, Darit. And I will say that, like, I was playing Frisbee golf with a couple of friends the other day, and I was asking them, hey, what do you guys think as introverts, as you're traveling? And one of the things that they said was, they said, you know, being an introvert, they don't really like to talk to people, but they find that sometimes when they're on travel, that is the time they like to talk to people, but not like hordes of people, but yeah, like one person at a time. And so it's like one of those where also, you know, if you're at like a tourist attraction and you're taking a photo or something, like you could ask somebody, you could say something just like, hey, cool attraction or something, and see if that leads to just a really short conversation. It doesn't have to be really long and in-depth. Brandon Torres answered the question about where to go, and he says go to Singapore because Yellow Productions recommends going there. I do love Singapore. If you've never been to Singapore, you should go. Singapore is amazing. And Chris Jaggs recommends the Penn and Teller Magic Show. All right, so let's go on to number 9, and whoa, number 9. I love it. What's this side? All right, number 9. All right, tip number 9 for introverts traveling is to avoid hostels and tread carefully at bed and breakfasts. Hostels are party places, and there is not much alone space in most hostels. Most people who are going to hostels want the experience of interacting with people and meeting with people, and the places are generally set up and designed to do that. If you're going to a bed and breakfast, research the bed and breakfast before. Make sure they don't enforce group breakfasts, or they don't have too chatty hosts, or they're not too invasive. And if you are going to a bed and breakfast, you know, like call in advance and explain that you're looking for a place that you can be alone, and kind of gauge what the bed and breakfast hosts say, right? Like if they're a place that generally respect that, they'll be like, oh yeah, no problem, you can sit alone for breakfast, we won't bug you. Or they might be like, oh no, we have like a community table and we expect everybody to talk. And at that point you'd be like, I'm out of here, this is definitely not the place for me. Something else that, you know, just about like this chatty people at hotels. OC Girl and I, we were in Maui. We were staying at Maui at the Andaz Hotel, and we'd eat at the buffet breakfast every morning. And at the buffet breakfast, I feel like the staff was trained to ask you questions about like, hey, what are you planning to do today? What did you do yesterday? Any exciting going on? And like, but it's one of those where, I don't know, and again, maybe this is me as someone who's thinking about this too much as an introvert, that I'm like, I really felt like the conversations were, they didn't really care. They were just asking this question because they've been told to ask the question, and they've been told that people like it when they care about them. But I'm sort of like, you know, at the point you're at the hotel for the 5th day and they've asked you the same question, and it doesn't seem like they actually remember what you told them the other day. It's one of those where it's like, oh, okay. Or it's like, hey, what are you going to do today? And you're like, I'm going to the beach. They're probably like, yeah, that's about the That's like a 10000, thousandths. I have a really hard time saying it. I will stop with that word, and I'm just going to drink some tea instead. All right. Doritz agrees. He loves Singapore, by the way. And OC Girl says, I've heard people, some people like to act completely like someone else when they're on travel. That's kind of interesting. And if any of you like watch Westworld, the show Westworld that's on HBO, and on Westworld, it's like this whole park with AI robots that are there, but it's all about like being able to go to this place and act like someone different. I can totally see how some people when they're on travel might be like, look, nobody knows me here and this and that. I'm gonna let it out. I mean, I think that's what like Vegas is for a lot of people, right? They're like, I can be a party animal when I can't be a party animal the rest of the time. Me, I'm pretty boring wherever I go. The Hello Hayden says, I walk the streets of Japan until I get lost. That's a great tip. I like to do that too. Actually, it's one of my favorite things to do when I go to a new place. I often won't really schedule the first day I'm there, and the first day is just like walk around, see what's there. It's pretty easy to do in Japan because Japan's a pretty safe place. There's some places I've been where like maybe Naples, Italy, where you start doing this and you're like, I'm not sure that I want to go that way. Or I was in Marseille in France, and I ask the hotel, I'll say like, hey, where do you recommend that I walk? And in Marseille, the hotel I was staying in, they pulled out a map, and they're like, well, basically out of the hotel, you want to walk down this street, and don't walk on any other streets, only those two streets. And you're like, oh, okay, safe neighborhood, huh? Let's see, Doritz agrees with my 20 questions thing, says that does irritate them, and sometimes they want some alone time. I agree with you, right? And breakfast is one of those places where it's like, it's cool. I can eat my breakfast. It's fine. And Chris Jags agrees about the hostels, that's not the best place for security. Security is not their number 1 priority. You're right. And Clean Extreme says, my neck is looking yellow. This neck here. Oh, let's see if I change this color setting again, what it does. Whoop. All right. Does it look any different? Do I still look yellow? Maybe it says light back here. What if we change the color temperature? Oh, that's the brightness. What if we change the color temperature of that light? How about now? How's it look now? Now I probably look more... I look more sickly, don't I? This doesn't look good. I don't like this. Color. Ooh. Yeah. Let's do that color. All right. Is this any better? Better colors? Still working on the colors. Still working on this new setup. We'll get it good. All right. Dorit says, great idea, taking a new identity during travel. Yeah, it's almost like something like Jason Bourne might do, right? Dorit says, Singapore is hot. I thought I would die, but I'm going back again in December. I'm glad I'm not the only one. That thinks Singapore is hot. And Mr. Pickles on Facebook says, the only question that I want to hear is, would you like more Eggs Benedict? That is a great question. Eggs Benedict is pretty great, and so if you are at a breakfast place that gives you unlimited Eggs Benedict, that's a pretty good deal. This light, I need to make brighter again. I think. Brighter. More yellow. More yellow. More yellow. All right. Okay, let's go on to question number... Not a question. They're not questions. Let's go on to tip number 10. Tip number 10 for introverts traveling is to bring a camera. Why bring a camera? Well, it gives you something to do, right? You can make it a mission to say, oh, I want to take pictures of this, or I want to do some video. For me, like when I do solo travel, because I'm making these videos, I'm like, I don't feel like lost and aimless. I've got like a list of things. I'm like, I want to go here, I want to shoot this, I want to shoot this, I want to shoot this, and I'm not just like wandering around, but I've got stuff to do. And it's like, I kind of feel accomplished afterwards because I'm doing that. And having cameras, you know, like it's another way to like strike up a conversation if you want to, because you're there with your pictures and maybe you see somebody else with a camera. Cameras are great ways to chat. Just be like, hey, what kind of camera do you got there? Do Do you like that camera? It's amazing how people will open up if you ask them about your camera. OC Girl and I, we were having Indian food the other day, and there was this guy in there taking like food photography for this restaurant. He was like not talking to anybody. And photographers are generally not chatty people. But I went up to him and said, hey, what kind of camera are you shooting with? And he's like, oh, I got a Sony A7 Mark II. It's really good. I like the lenses on it. I'm considering upgrading to a Mark III. I just haven't got it yet, right? And it was like, oh, cool. We could have had like totally a long conversation about cameras. But then I was an introvert, and that was all I wanted to know. And I said, thank you. Hey, I appreciate it. All right. Tip 11 for introverts is if you are going on a long road trip. Wow, that might be awful for introverts because long road trips, you are stuck in the car for a long time with some people and you have to talk to them. So great things to do on long road trips are listen to audiobooks, right? If you've been meaning to read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but just haven't had the time, go to Audible, get some audiobooks, and listen to that Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy while you're driving from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, 4 to 5 hours. Or listen to a podcast, right? There's tons of podcasts. Those are great. OC Girl really loves to listen to the podcast about stuff you missed in history class, so you can drive and learn a little bit at the same time, right? You can sit there, you can listen to this podcast, and then you can maybe talk about it afterwards if you want to. Marika Helena on Facebook says, great topic for a video. Thank you, Marika. Let's see. Clean Extreme says Gulliver's Travels. That's probably a good one. Pretty long for an audiobook. The Uniplex says, where are you going on your next trip? Chinmay says Thailand. It is Thailand, and Hong Kong. We're going to Bangkok, and then we're going to Hong Kong afterwards. We're pretty excited for that. Remy D says, love podcasts. So that's great. Those are great things to do on long road trips. All right. Tip number 12 for introverts is to head into nature. Take a hike because there are not many people out there. If you don't like people, and I've heard a lot of people say they don't just like not talking to people, but they don't like being around people, right? And so this is a great time to go out to like Wyoming, go to national parks. I mean, you don't just have to go to national parks. A lot of big cities around the world have hiking paths. One of my favorite is in Singapore. It's the Singapore Southern Ridges Trail. It's this trail that like cuts through the center of Singapore. And even though Singapore is like a hustling and bustling metropolis, walking on this trail, you really feel like you kind of are in the middle of the jungle, even though there's like a subway station every hour or so on the hike. It's pretty neat. Another hike I've really enjoyed and kind of a city experience is in Japan, in Kamakura. Kamakura, Japan. It is about an hour and a half outside of Tokyo. Kamakura is home to this big Buddha. It's this big outdoor seated Buddha that's been there for hundreds of years. But they've got this hike on this ridge that runs through the city, and it's a great way to explore, be around people, but then be like, I want to get away for a while, and then not see people. But that's not to say that, you have to only go to the middle of nowhere, right? You can go to these cities and you can find nature experiences. Brandon Torres says the Grand Canyon is amazing to walk. Brandon, I'm curious, like the upper rim of the Grand Canyon or below? OC Girl and I, we were discussing for like a next trip, should we do Grand Canyon or should we do Zion National Park, right? Zion is in Utah, and if any people, like you YouTube fanatics, maybe you've seen the Piano Guys. We see the Piano Guys do a lot of cool videos in Zion National Park, so we're sort of deciding whether we should go to the Grand Canyon or Zion. We've heard the Grand Canyon, like you see it from the top, but Zion, you see it from inside. We're probably not going to take the mule rides down the Grand Canyon. It might be just a little too adventuresome. Deanna asks if OC Girl has her own channel. She does, and I think if you go to my channel, you'll find like a little recommended, suggested, this and that. Her channel's all in Chinese, I will point out. So she's got a few videos on there. She's also got a Facebook page. OC. If you find my Facebook page, I'll share one of her posts after this so you can find her page. But that's where like a lot of the great pictures and thumbnails that I do come from. Her hobby is definitely on the photographic end of things. Bobcat 500 Gaming says, I'm not an introvert, but what is in this video will help me educate myself to help others who are. That's interesting, Bobcat Gaming, and I'm so glad you are thinking about the other introverts in this world. Matatat says, I went to Yosemite by myself a few months ago for the first time and had a blast. It was my first visit since going there with my dad when I was a kid. That's very cool. I've never been to Yosemite. Whenever I think of national parks, I think of the Yogi Bear cartoon where they're like in Jellystone National Park. And Yogi Bear and Boo Boo are out to steal picnic baskets. It's definitely an American cartoon reference for those of you that have seen that cartoon. Lois Von Hippel says, I can only tolerate crowds for limited time, so appreciate the tips for introverts. All right, excellent, Lois. I'm kind of with you there. I don't like crowds all the time, but limited crowds I do just fine. Yes, and OC Girl dropped the name of her Facebook page into the chat, which is ocgirl.notebook. So if you go to, and this is like somebody on Facebook asked that question, but if you search ocgirl.notebook on Facebook, you will find her page. So go check it out, like it, for lots of cool pictures of often a lot of the places that we go together. And you can learn some Chinese in the process. Bonus. Chinmei says, I have tried to convert introverts to extroverts. So far, I have been miserably failing. I could see how that just probably wouldn't work out. And I think that, you know, if your goal is to get introverts to enjoy some extroverted activities, you know, just realize that they do need their downtime too. And I think that was the earlier conversation I alluded to with a couple of my introverted friends playing disc golf. And by the way, when I say introverted friends, I'm not diming them out because as I shared at the beginning, I am a big introvert. And again, you wouldn't know it because I just look like, wow, Chris must be a big extrovert. But if you think about this, I am sitting in a room pretty much by myself, right, looking into a glass object, talking to it. I do love that we have this great conversation, but at the end of this hour, then I can be by myself again, and I can recharge so that we can do it again, right? I can be extroverted in spurts, and I think that's what you have to do if you're trying to coax introverts out on travel. Is just be like, hey, we're gonna do this, but you know, it's only for like an hour, it's only for like 2 hours, and you can just go back and do your thing. So give them those little like escape routes. Mr. Pickle says, I want to become an introvert, but I am hopeless. Oh, hopeless, Mr. Pickles. Clean Extreme says, is OC Girl's English better than your Chinese or vice versa? Her English is definitely far superior to my Chinese. 我会说一点中文, which is I speak a little bit of Chinese, 一点点点, and enough to, you know, order like Beijing Kao Ya, which is like Peking duck, or go to Din Tai Fung and order some Xiaolong Bao, which are the soup dumplings that they have there. So I would say my Chinese is basically so that I can order at a Chinese restaurant or a Taiwanese restaurant when I'm in a Chinese-speaking country. It's also enough so that if OC Girl's on the phone and she's talking about me, I can tell if she's saying hao or bu hao, which is good or not good, right? I want to know, is this positive or is it negative? That's all I really need to know. Remy D asks, what do you think about Serpensa's channel? I'm not sure who Serpensa is. Matatat says, Morley Field in San Diego is a top-notch course. It is, Matatat. We went to play disc golf in Orange County at La Mirada, which is home to the disc golf course where there was the world's first professional disc golf championship. It's a 36-hole disc golf course. And for people who've never played disc golf or frisbee golf, it's like golf, like, except with frisbees. But they're not frisbees, they're called discs, they're called flying discs because frisbee is a patented, copywritten, trademarked term by Whammo Corporation. And these frisbees, or flying discs, they're slightly different than normal frisbees. They're not designed to catch, so they have sharper edges. You throw them into a chained net that has a basket, and that's essentially how you get a hole, right? You throw this frisbee into there. And you might think, boy, that's easy. But when the holes are 500 feet long and they're full of trees, it actually can be kind of difficult to do that. But it's fun because, you know, you can play a frisbee golf course in an hour or 2 hours, unlike 18 holes of regular golf, which takes like forever. And thanks for all the likes on Facebook and the hearts. I love to see those go up there. So I'm curious. I know at least one person plays disc golf. Any of you else out there like disc golf, or is that just me? Kavita says, what are your favorite restaurants or eats in Singapore? Your videos are great. Thanks, Kavita. I think I probably show a lot of them in my, like, I've got like a Singapore foods video and a Singapore hawker center video, but I really enjoy laksa, which is like a Malaysian style soup with like coconut and curry, and it's spicy. I really enjoy the satay. I enjoy chicken rice. Actually, I can't really think of anything I don't like when I'm in Singapore. I also really like prawn noodles. Those are probably my like collection of 4. The Uniplex asks if you've seen Food Ranger on YouTube. I have not. And Jake McShane right there, who says he likes disc golf. Yes, he is one of the ones that I was playing with. So that is great. I love it. Thank you, Jake. And Dorit says La Passat Satay. Yes, that's a great place for it. And OC Girl says that Topher is an introvert. He is. And Jake McShane asked that question. You know, it's one where like Topher doesn't really like to be held by too many people. You know, he just only likes to be held by me, his older brother. Remy D says Serpensa is a South African who's been living in China for over 10 years and does walking vlogs of his solo travels. He has some great insight into China's day-to-day. Interesting, Remy D. I will have to check it out. There is a channel that I like, and it's sort of similar. There's a guy by the name of Jesus, and he's a Spanish guy that has a YouTube channel in Taiwan talking about life in Taiwan, and so he's pretty interesting too. Matatat says, I play La Mirada all the time. Huntington Beach and El Dorado Park are my home courses. We need a disc golf video. Very cool. I'm curious, Matatat, which is your favorite from those 3? Let's see. What's your day job? Non-identifier specific, and does it drive or instigate much of your travel? My day job is to manage software development projects, and it drives some of my travel, but I would say much of the travel that you see on here, a lot of it's personal travel. OC Girl and I, we do like a couple big trips a year. We do some smaller trips. There's usually not like, you know, if we've gone 2 months and we haven't been anywhere, or we don't have something planned, we start to get itchy. So, like as an example of that, we're going in a couple weeks to, like I mentioned, Thailand. We're going to Hong Kong, then we're going to go to Vegas again, and then we're going to go to Utah, and that's all before the end of the year. So we like to go places. It keeps things fun. And then, of course, we live in Southern California, and so there's a lot of things to go in LA or near LA, or like do videos in Hollywood or this and that. And so we are hopeless explorers. You know what I always say? I say my first name is Chris, and I share a name with Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus is an explorer, and you know what it means to be an explorer? Well, we celebrate Christopher Columbus because he found America, but what was he looking for? He was looking for India because he called the Native Americans Indians. But yet we have a holiday for Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus is an explorer. He got lost. That's what he did. So I just consider myself someone who likes to get lost. Electric Rick, for those of you who don't know, is my dad watching this. Dad, good to see you. Thanks for joining in. He says he still likes disc golf played with frisbees, right, which might be a little bit easier. And we used to play disc golf like in parks, where we wouldn't necessarily have like a basket, but we'd just be like, hey, we're shooting for that tree as our hole, and whoever can hit the tree, right, that's what counts. Grovel says, what's your favorite anime? Anime, Japanese animation, Ranma 1/2, because it's got like a panda in it. I also like Cowboy Bebop. Those are probably my 2 favorites. All right, let's go to number... Number 13. All right, travel tip number 13 for introverts is to know when you're done. When you're an introvert and you're traveling, you have to know when you're done. You have to know when your social batteries are empty. And I started with a little bit of this, but I'm going to say it again, is it's okay to pass on dinner. It's okay to pass on after dinner drinks. It's okay to pass on after dinner drinks, nightcap. It's okay to pass on breakfast. It's okay just to be like, hey, I'll just see you at that thing, or I'll see you at this other place. Let's figure out what that activity is, and then like we can go our separate ways. It's cool. But you know, my rule that I used to travel with, and this is kind of my concluding remark in this video, and so I'll say, if you have any other questions before I give this concluding mark and say my preamble, ask them away now, because we're getting to our final 10 minutes. But my golden rule when I travel is I eat when I'm hungry, I drink when I'm thirsty, and I rest when I'm tired, because I don't want to get sick. And I sort of don't care if that makes me seem antisocial, right? If people are like, oh, you're just antisocial, you know what, why don't you like hanging out with us? It's like, it's because I'm tired, and if I hung out with you guys anymore, tomorrow, I'd have a cold, and then I'd get you guys sick. None of you would want that. And so, totally cool, right? And it's another one like the, I eat when I'm hungry, and I drink when I'm thirsty. I'll say this is one that I probably had to learn a little more on travel. Like if I'm walking the streets of Tokyo, and I'm thirsty, I don't wait a half hour to get like a cheaper water bottle or something else. I'll just like, I'm thirsty, I'm going to stop now and get something to drink. I don't really care how much it is because I need to take care of my thirst, or I need to take care of my hunger. And again, when I'm tired, I need to take care of that. If that's a nap, or if that's going to bed early, or if that's sleeping in late. You know, often travel is like one of these things where you're going a far place and you're jet lagged and all those sorts of things. And I find that people like often way overdo it. Like where they're like, okay, I've taken my 26-hour plane ride from New York City to Singapore, I'm gonna just hit the ground running. And it's like, it might just be better to take that first day easy, stay in the hotel, sleep in, and then like the next day be like, okay, I'm ready to do anything. But like the first day, just like, don't bug me because I need to relax. Mr. Pickles says, but related to breakfast, it is not okay to pass on Eggs Benedict. That is probably true. And I didn't say you have to pass on breakfast, you just might pass on the group breakfast. And maybe if you're by yourself, might be more time to have Eggs Benedict. Or more... Tidge O on Facebook says, we play disc golf here in Australia. It's not super popular, but it's lots of fun. That's awesome, Tidge O. Jeff Altmer says, any plans maybe to come to Canada? We'd love to come to Canada, Jeff. Where we've been talking about going to Vancouver, but you know, every time we want to go, it just seems like the flights are overly expensive for what amounts to be like a 3-hour flight from LA. And I guess because it's international. The Uniplex says, that I have an excellent channel and please come to Canada. Well, thank you, Uniplex. I appreciate it. Grovel says he hopes I don't behave like Christopher Columbus when you travel. I don't think I do, because I don't think I give people blankets with smallpox or whatever. Almost Good Film says, taking a solar trip to Japan in 2 weeks. Your videos about Japan have helped immensely. That is great to hear. Almost Good Films. Brandon Torres says, are museums great for introverts? I'm not sure if that's a statement or a question. Sure, I would say introverts that like museums, they're good for. I am personally not a museum lover. Like, I go in museums, and like if I go to the Louvre or something, I'm basically going in to be like, where is the Mona Lisa? And I try to find the Mona Lisa, and then I found it, and then it's time to go. That's about it. Or I go to like a modern art museum, and I walk through the museum, and I go like, oh, boy, that looks very modern or contemporary. I don't know what it is, but next room, next room, next room, next room, next room, next room. 1 hour, I've walked through the whole thing. I've gotten my exercise. My feet are tired, and I can go now. Remy D says, isn't traveling solo kind of expensive because you can't split the cost for others for lodging and rideshare? Remy, I mean, not necessarily, because you can stay in small hotels, right? Like, Japan is a great place. Japan's a great place to go solo because you can get like really small hotels, right? You can get these hotels for like $60 or $70 a night. They'd be too small for 2 people, but 1 person you can fit in just fine. Take the subway, take a bus, it's cheap. I mean, yeah, you can't split taxis, but you can certainly travel, I think, by yourself inexpensively. DeRitt says he agrees with that golden rule plan I have because he's always paranoid of getting sick. Nobody likes to get sick. Jackie says, taking a solo trip on Wednesday to Missouri. Any advice? I've never Well, let's see, Missouri. St. Louis? Have you been to, if you're going to St. Louis, what part of Missouri are you going to? If you're going to St. Louis, you should eat at Pappy's. Pappy's has some of the best St. Louis style ribs. Mr. Pickle says we need a series on the best sukiyaki restaurants in Southern California. Okay, interesting. Maybe you can seed that with what you think some of the top ones are. I don't know that I've been to a lot of sukiyaki restaurants. I love Japanese food, but I would say sukiyaki isn't something that I typically often eat. David K says, brother, that lisp is starting to sound forced. If you mean how I speak, this is just how I speak. Nothing is forced about it. Let's see. Matt answered my question about disc golf courses, and he says that he likes La Mirada, but it doesn't have technical shorter ones, and that apparently I should go to Chavez Ridge above Dodger Stadium. All right, I'll check that out next time. Brandon Torres says Kansas City is the best place in Missouri, which is funny, right? There's this interesting thing in the U.S. that, like, in Kansas, like Kansas City exists as a city in Missouri and in Kansas. And there's this big argument about who's the real Kansas City. Is it the Kansas City in Missouri, or is it the Kansas City in Kansas? Always a great question. All right, well, that brings us about to the end of our time. I would like to thank all of you for watching. I'd like to thank your questions. I'd like to thank you for your comments. I'd like to thank you for your subscriptions, your likes, all those sorts of things. Thank you, because if you weren't here, this would be really boring to talk to a camera by myself and not have a conversation. So I love that we can have a conversation. If you wonder when the next live stream is, it's going to be in 2 weeks. The next live stream is going to be on October 29th, 14 days from now, usual time, Monday, 8 p.m. Los Angeles time. What will the topic be? I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But if you follow me on Facebook, you'll find a link in the description below. I always post updates on the topic a couple days ahead of time. Put that on your calendar. If you've missed my previous live streams, you'll also find a link in the description below to all of my Monday live streams. If this was your first time here, definitely subscribe, hit that bell to get notifications for future live streams. When I go live, you'll get like a little notification to your phone, so make sure you can get in the live stream right away. And I won't say goodbye because I will see you guys in the next video, and it is time to play the outro.